Welcome to Mental, the TV show that explores mental health disorders through education and humour. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about bipolar disorder. Kima Bob is our comedian of the day, and she's going to be doing a really cool stand-up all about her personal experiences with bipolar disorder. After that, we'll be meeting Dara Vakili, graduate and researcher from University College London, and he'll be answering the most important questions that you guys will be tweeting, so stay tuned for that. So now, as in every episode, it's your chance to tweet any questions or thoughts that you might have about today's topic, @MentalUK. Should we get started with the show? Guys, so I am ready to laugh and learn. So without further ado, let's welcome Kima Bob.
Hiya.
Hello. Oh, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
How are you doing?
I am all right. I'm really excited to be here.
Fab. So we're all really excited for your stand-up.
Nice.
But the real question is, are you ready?
Like about as ready as a chronically anxious person can be for anything.
Fantastic. We'll take it. We will take it. So we'll get cracking in just a bit. But before that, let's check out this mini documentary so our audience can find out just who Kima Bob is.
I'm curious. My name is Kima Bob. I am a comic from Houston, Texas. And I do stand-up comedy. I'm an improviser. I also perform as the drag king, Lil Testes. I produce stuff, and I write stuff, and I host stuff, and yeah, I exist. When I was younger and I was in like middle school and stuff, I would get voted as class clown, like a lot. I was diagnosed with bipolar during my third year in undergrad, and it was really weird because what it did for my comedy at that time was horrible stuff. It did absolutely nothing for me. I just lost my drive to go do the one thing, you know, that put like a real smile on my face. So that was a bummer. And it wasn't until years later when I would begin to address it on stage. So yeah, guys, I have bipolar. And so what, you guys? I'm a freaking boss. I'm a freaking badass. Hey! Hello. Hey, I'm Kima. I am from Texas, which is interesting. A lot of people, especially people in London, will be like, oh, you're from Texas, isn't that amazing? Why would you ever leave? And I'm just kind of like, I'm very much a black woman. Like, it's not the ideal climate for me to be in. But being in London is super cool. A bit stressful, but I'm stressed all the time because I have bipolar disorder. Woo! That's right. Yeah. I have bipolar disorder, which is like super chill. It's like so cool. I do it all the time. Robin Williams has it, you know, and like Amy Winehouse has it. And they're cool, so that's how I know that I'm gonna be cool. It's interesting. I feel like there are like positives to diagnosis, right? Like I can really empathize with people due to my vast emotional range. I see myself in London sun, how it like just shines super intensely and then just disappears with no explanation. Like, I get that. That's me. I feel you. They're weird thoughts. Like the other day I was chilling in my room solo, how I like it sometimes. I was chilling in my room and this fly like came and he sat on my leg and kind of like looked at me and I was like, hey, get out of here. And he flew around a bit, but never got really far from me, you know? Just stayed in like my view. He was like right there. And then he came and sat back down and he just looked me in the eyes and was like, be my friend. I was like, oh, it was so interesting. And it occurred to me so clearly in that moment that like flies are not annoying, they're not a nuisance, They're just lonely and they want like connection and physical contact, but don't know about consent. If you would have asked, it would have been fine. It literally would have been fine. I've been Kima Bob. You guys have been awesome.
Now let's meet Dara, biomedical researcher and recent UCL graduate. Hi Dara.
Hi there.
Good to see you.
You too?
Yeah, are you excited?
Very excited.
Me
Absolutely.
too. So now in this segment, just as we do in every segment in this show, you're going to be answering some of the questions that people have been tweeting in. Should we get started?
Absolutely, let's do it.
Let's do it. So the first question is, are mood swings bipolar and how do we recognise them?
So a mood swing is essentially an abrupt change in someone's mood.
Right.
And this can happen to anybody, and it happens to everybody. So we all have a day where we feel on top of the world, and then suddenly the next morning we might feel like we find it very difficult to get out of bed, for example.
Yeah.
So, you know, they are kind of small fluctuations between sadness to happiness, and other emotions as well. And they're quite normal and short-lived. But bipolar is profoundly different for several reasons. Firstly, in bipolar, you've got a period called mania,
Right.
which is an abnormally elevated mood. And in this, a person can, for example, be quite irritable, for example.
I see.
And then you have the opposite of that, which is depression. And in depression, a person has something called anhedonia, where they have a decreased ability to feel pleasure, for example. And one thing that is profoundly different is that these periods can be from a few hours long to 3 months long, and even longer than that. And it's a long-term condition which impacts a person's quality of life.
I see.
And their daily function, essentially.
So the next question is, can it be cured?
So bipolar is kind of a long-term thing, and it can't be cured, but then it can be managed. So there are certain treatments that you can start with in the beginning with different drugs and chemicals, where you control the initial symptoms and you try and bring someone away from any kind of initial presentation.
Yeah.
And then they look at a long-term kind of treatment for it. So they consider things like certain mood stabilizers, and what they try to do is they try to remove those periods of mania and to prevent the periods of depression.
So like
to try and bring someone to like an even ground. Exactly. And then there's other things as well. So they try to remove things like stress, and they try and do things like cognitive behavioral therapy.
I see. So the final question is, are you born with it?
So there definitely is a genetic component to bipolar. So we say that there's a high heritability rate,
Right.
which means heritability is when a disease is passed down generations, and this is around something 80 to 85%.
Wow, that is quite high.
And so, yes, to an extent you're predisposed with it genetically, but then there's lots and lots of environmental things. For example, childhood abuse has been associated, stress, and all of these things have an impact. And so, essentially with that, you are born with it and you're predisposed, but it depends on a lot of environmental factors.
Yeah.
And there's lots of ways of finding out more about it as well. So if you wanted to inquire whether someone's got it, for example, there's places like Bipolar UK, and they offer a call line and centre, so you can look at stuff like that.
Perfect. It's been super insightful. Thank you so much.
No problem at all.
Have you enjoyed yourself?
I definitely have, yeah. It's been a good experience.
Oh, thank you. And thank you to you guys for watching as well. I have definitely laughed and I've definitely learned something today. It's been great. It's been really, really good. And just remember, even if you or somebody that you know does not suffer with bipolar disorder, doesn't mean that we shouldn't know about the minds around us and our own minds. Thank you so much, and see you next time where we'll be talking about OCD. Bye.